Good morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about compassion, a hot topic, and share some of my thoughts on this. See what you think. We all strive to be happy. This is something that is common to all of us. And essential to achieving happiness of any variety is feeling connected to others. Because when we feel connected to others, we don't feel isolated. And at some point, we won't even look at others as others. We will see them as intimately connected to ourselves. Within the context of Buddhism and Hinduism and Christianity, the world's great religions, realization is not possible without compassion. In other words, compassion is the foundation of meditation. It falls under motivation. What is the motivation for achieving enlightenment, achieving realization? The motivation for achieving a realization is an altruistic one, to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. So within all traditions, this is a common thread in all the teachings. And sometimes it's obscured and thought about as a dharma, so to speak, something that's confined to dharma practice and dharma practitioners. So I would like to take it out of the context of religion and place it in ordinary thinking, where it really belongs and where it really is, but may take some time to understand it as such. We are interdependent with others, and it's the realization of this interdependence that undermines any sense of isolation and separateness from others. And it is separateness from others, this feeling of being separate from others, that leads to selfish striving for our own benefit. And it is striving for our own benefit that puts a cap on the level of happiness we can achieve. The happiness that we generally achieve is dependent on externals. In other words, we go shopping, we purchase some things, and we become happy about that purchase, or we wait for something to arrive in the mail from Amazon and we feel a sense of happiness from that. Look forward to it. We wish to receive that little box from Amazon and open it and look at it and everything, and we think that this is a source of happiness. But this kind of happiness is actually supported externally and dependent on externals. So all dharmas, all religions, they teach to find a happiness that's not supported by externals. You can think about it as a innate happiness, a happiness that we walk around with and it's always with us. It's just like if we went to the gym and worked out for several months or a year or two and we feel a certain strength in our legs, where would we go? We'd feel that strength. When we walk about, we feel the strength in our back and our legs. It's always there because we worked our muscles and so forth to get it there. In the same way, when we begin to realize genuine compassion and interconnected with others, that feeling is always there with us. It never leaves us, not even for a moment. And it's completely independent of any stimulus. It's there. It's who we are. It's our way of looking at the world. It's our perspective, our attitude, our way of seeing things, and aligning ourselves with the way things are, which is interconnected. And achieving this is not really confined to so-called Dharma activities, meditation and so forth, or going to church or making offerings and everything. These kind of things may be aids, but it's certainly not restricted here. It's restricted to a so-called religious context. Although achieving happiness and realization is, according to all religions, dependent on having an altruistic motivation, is getting there. It's not, doesn't mean one has to be a Buddhist, a Hindu, or a Christian, or whatever. It can be just applying, and it should be just applying common sense. If we think for a moment about everything in our lives, the shoes we wear, the clothes that we wear, the roads that we drive upon, the foods that we purchase, the merchant that sells it to us, the entertainment we enjoy, none of it could happen without people just like ourselves. People that wish to be happy, people that wish to be with their families and friends, people that wish to be healthy and free of disease. These other people are really no different from ourselves, and we know that. A moment's reflection and we will know it. We know it. We're aware of that. It's nothing that we're not aware of already. The problem is we're not aware of it deeply enough. It's not deeply engraved in our consciousness enough that we really appreciate it, and that we have an attitude towards others as we do towards ourselves. In other words, a real feeling and concern for the welfare of others, a love for others, a feeling of warm-heartedness towards others, a feeling of connectedness. When the Indian saint Ramana Maharshi was asked by a disciple, "What is the difference between you and other people?" The great saint replied, "There are no other people." And for this great realized being, who is really contemporary with most of us, he died 50, 60 years ago, but he's not one of these ancient masters buried in history. He was speaking from his realization. And that's why he was so much loved in India. He didn't see any other people. He saw other people as himself. and deeply realize what we all realize is that so-called other people have the same aspirations and wishes for happiness that we do. The only difference between us and Ramana Maharshi is that he realized it very, very deeply and intimately. And for us, it's sort of a concept that's out there, although we're aware of it. So in order to develop compassion, we don't have to do much except use common sense and take a little time each day, throughout the day, to think about what we already know. If instead of distracting ourselves with frivolous activities, like picking up the phone to call when we just feel an idle moment with nothing to do, or picking up the tablet to look at the news or Facebook when we really weren't thinking about Facebook or the news anyway. There's a difference between doing it with intention to do it and just doing it because one's idle and distracted. If we take a few moments of our idle time, and instead of allowing ourselves to succumb to distraction, to focus our mind and think about what we already know about things in our life and the way the world works. If we take a little time to think, what about the person who made our shoes? I wonder where that person lived. I wonder about how he thought about his family, what his concerns were. Regardless of whether the person who made our shoes was living in Indonesia in a hot, dusty hut, or working in a factory once throughout the day under unfavorable conditions, or living in America, working in a factory under good conditions. That person that made our shoes, if you analyze it, he had the exact same wishes and concerns that we do. He or she wished to be happy, cared for their family and friends, was a social being that wanted to be around people that they loved and loved them. And they took time to go every day to work to produce our shoes. Maybe they didn't want to be there, but they were there, and they made it possible for us to have the shoes on our feet that we walk around in. We already know this, but do we really feel it? And the idea is to really start identifying with these other people and see, well, actually, what they're doing, regardless of where they are, is not so much different than what I'm doing too, because I'm not always doing what I want to do. And I am also productive in a way that's benefiting other people's lives, making their lives possible. It's not a one-way street. It's not that other people are making our lives possible, like making our clothes and shoes and providing entertainment and selling us goods and processing foods that we eat and so forth, serving us at a restaurant. It's not that other people are making our lives possible. It's not just that. It's not a one-way affair. We are also making the lives of others possible too. So we are interconnected. But we really need to deepen this interconnected feeling and produce the attitude of and perspective that's always with us, just like a strong man's legs. A perspective that never leaves us. a way of looking at the world that's always there and new. And achieving this is a long haul. It requires persistence because we have separated ourselves from this natural feeling that we have through our own selfish striving. And we lost sight of the fact that we're not really independent beings. We're interdependent beings. We're connected beings. And the happiness of others depends on us. And our own happiness depends on others. And if we can develop this and deepen this feeling that we all have to some extent, but whatever we have, if we can build upon it, through common sense reasoning, we will gradually create what's called the bodhisattva attitude, the altruistic ambition to attain enlightenment for the welfare of others. So we all strive for happiness, whether it's somebody working in a shoe shop or a cloth factory or a farm producing our food in a distant country or nearby us. Yeah. We are not separate from others. The people we interact with every day, or the people that are far off in some distant country, are equally our brethren and sisters in seeking happiness. And we're all dependent on each other. There are just those who realize it very deeply and there's those that don't. But it's there for us to cultivate. We just need to do it. And this is where real happiness comes from. It's the happiness that will always be with us, and it will not be dependent on externals. It won't be dependent on opening a box that's on its way from Amazon or some trivial thing. It will be constantly with us and never leave us. It's a viewpoint, it's a way of looking at the world that's all embracing. And it's common sense. It's achieved through just common sense, just looking and thinking about what we already know. And it's letting those small understandings that we have grow bigger and bigger and deeper until we become more like Ramana Maharshi, who just didn't see other people and was as concerned for others as his own self and viewed others as his own self, because this is the true source of happiness. So I'll conclude this talk right here. Amitofo, I love you. Enjoy the path. Bye-bye.